Hello, hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Parisa and here's Paris Astro. Today we have a wonderful guest, Ty, one of my friends. They just graduated from their master, so I'm so happy to have them today with us. So we just talked about why not having just kind of like a chill conversation together to see how graduate school looked like for you, because they did their undergrad here at Queen's, so I don't know, like you have a lot of stories to tell. So I'm like, why not getting them just before they're gonna head off for their new job?
Yep.
So just have a kind of like a chat together.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. So do you want to like introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Ty. I'm just finished, like letters of like finishing this morning. My master's degree. I'm working with the same supervisor as Parisa, so Sarah, and we're doing very different projects. So I did a lot of stuff with looking at molecular gas in the interstellar medium. But I've also been here for quite a few years. As Parisa mentioned, I did my undergrad here. And so I did that in the Bachelor of Science with the astrophysics specialization. And yeah, I've had a pretty good time at Queen's, but it's been quite a while. So
yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like a long journey because by the end of that, I'm gonna finish my PhD. It's gonna be 6
You'll
years
be the
that
same.
And I'm like, I basically grew up in Queens, but yeah, that's kind of cool. But I just like prepared some question for Ty, and I'm like, yeah, because I don't know, a lot of people might like have a lot of questions at what astronomy major look like, because like when you tell people that I'm doing astronomy, they're like, oh wow, like astronomy just sounds so cool. Or like, are you like looking behind, like standing behind the telescope and looking through the eyepiece every single day? So I'm like, well, maybe we can give a more realistic point of view about how that program looks like, and maybe after that we're going to talk about what was exactly like your research and how cool was it?
Yeah, so it's interesting because the astronomy program, it's a subset of the physics. And so not a lot of people actually end up doing it because physics is not the most popular degree, shall we say. But a lot of people who do physics are really interested in astro. So it's nice you get that kind of close-knit group. So it's a lot of very physics and math-heavy courses. But you do get, certainly at Queen's, you get some courses that are really specialized, which is nice. You know, I got to take a few stellar astrophysics courses and things like that. But yeah, so there wasn't, compared to other people who have big universities with really astro-focused degrees, I actually found that Queen's has relatively few astro courses. But yeah, no, I found it, I liked it. I liked it enough to stay. Yeah, there's more lab work than I would really have wanted.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Less, you know, observations, but also COVID had impacts on everything. And so that was a little unfortunate. But
yeah, no, I mean, it's very interesting that you mentioned it, because like my background, like my undergrad background was like totally different, because we had a physics program that we didn't have any specialization. We used to have, but I don't know, they kind of removed it at my time. So I needed to just like do a lot of voluntary project and then try to fit myself, kind of force myself into some groups to like do some astronomy related project that kind of helped me to build my resume to apply for astronomy grad schools. But I don't know, I personally prefer like those universities that have options that you can take those courses. I mean, maybe a little bit more than taking courses, to like being a summer student of a prof, so that just kind of build up that
definitely
path.
The ability, like Queen's, because we have so many astro profs. Like after second year, I did a summer research thing. It was actually with the McDonald Institute doing particle stuff, and you know, I'm not doing particle stuff anymore. It was a good experience. I liked it. Nothing bad to say about the work of the prof. It's just that, you know, I had the opportunity to learn that particle astrophysics isn't for me.
Exactly.
And like having that opportunity, being able to explore and go talk to other profs and other students, hear about what other students did on their summers. It's really nice to like kind of get that broader field, because there's no time to try everything. That's what bugs me so much about science. What if I really like lasers and I just don't know it? What if I would be so good at condensed matter? I don't know, but I'm never going to find out because I don't have time for that.
No, exactly. Like, and I was just like saying, by the time that I was applying for all the programs of astronomy in Canada, basically I would have accepted any kind of field in astronomy that I would have been accepted. And I accepted an interstellar medium, kind of star formation field, and I liked my group. So I kind of like that field as well. But maybe I would have accepted like dark matter or like black holes, and I would just like, you know, have my careers in that
like I'm really only here because, you know, of the profs I reached out to for a project. You know, there were 2 who I was interested in, and Sarah happened to be the more communicative. And so that's why I'm here. I didn't set out going, yes, I know what I want to do.
Exactly. And I think that's very important to mention, to like, when you're at the point that you want to decide which field you're going, if you have kind of like a general idea that like, I might like this because I took like some course that it sounded interesting. And then that's kind of like good enough to start your journey. And you might start a journey and hate that. And I'm like, I don't want to like do that anymore, and then just like move on, because there's no other way or shortcut that just say, I'm very passionate about this field, and I'm going to solve like the most mysterious problem in the in the earth, and I'm going to find like, you know, where we come from and stuff. Like there's no way. And there's, I think, very good to have more realistic perspective, point of view, to like, it's not like that, I'm doing my PhD that just specifically passionate about that field of study. It also comes with a lot of like a package, like your group, your supervisor, your experience as a graduate school, your university, and all them come
like
together.
2 people could study the exact same thing, but if they're in different research groups, they might have totally different experiences. So
I think you kind of like, it's important to mention, that's what I like, the whole point, that to build more realistic point of view, that there's no way that you kind of like feel there's one field that I'm just obsessed with and go on. You build
like I thought that when I was 16,
with time.
Because when I was 16, that one thought was space. And I didn't know that, you know, there are 50 different types of astronomer, and they all do totally different things.
And sometimes they have no clue what the others do. And as we sit in a conference or talks, and I'm like, I have no clue what that person is talking about.
So, you know, like every time, there's always more to learn about. And so, it's nice to have those different experiences where, you know, you go to a talk and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, but it seems kind of cool. And, you know, like exploring all of those different fields is really neat.
Because I see like a graduate school is like more developing an ability to learn stuff that you develop an interest to, rather than like, having all those information right on top of your head and call it like immediately in front of others.
Like how often are you actually going to use your PhD research? Who knows? But the idea is, you know, in doing a master's or a PhD, you have the ability to conduct research, you have the ability to write a thesis or papers, you're able to do all of these things. So you could take whatever field you want and go, okay, I can figure this out. And so that's
really nice. I think that's thanks for sharing, because I think that's very important to have those point of view, that it's okay if you don't know, if it's okay if you start something which you assumed that you liked it and now you don't like it anymore. It's very normal, and everybody
super common.
It's super common. So my next question will be, would you like to tell us more about your research? That like, I think the audiences, I assume, will be like the most general public ever. Like, I don't know, like maybe my grandma is like looking at this, so you know, need to like do that basic, but what were your work on it?
So my research was, it boils down to like looking into space and finding some stuff and going, is that going to be a star? And first of all, you got to look at the stuff and find those little bits that you're looking at, right? Because stars, you know, you get them when you get a bunch of stuff that gets really close together, and it starts to get squeezed by gravity, and that makes it hot, and eventually it like blows up like a bomb and starts being a star, right? So you want to find the stuff that's already kind of squished in. So that was like steps 1 through 6 is finding those bits, right? Because of course nothing's easy. Everything gets sidetracked and rabbit holes and all that sort of stuff.
So can you remind me like how big those areas are that you're looking at?
The regions that I'm looking at, they're very far away. They're like what is it? A parsec is 4 light
400,
years.
like 400. The parsec is 3.2 light years, I think.
Right, and I'm looking at stuff that's less than a kiloparsec to about 2 kiloparsecs away.
Okay.
So 3,000 to 6,000 light years away.
Okay.
And these are like clouds of gas and dust and space bits that are, on the whole, 30 light years across. But we're looking at that, we're going, okay, I'm looking at this entire, like, many solar systems. Let me go down and find one little spot. And so the little guys that we're looking at, those are maybe, at this point, they're maybe like less than a light year across. Mm-hmm. But the idea is this thing, even though that's huge right now, like that's bigger than the solar system, eventually, maybe, that's the second half of the thesis, is maybe it'll squish down and down and down and down and down and get so small that it can actually start to burn.
Yeah. Just a quick reminder, like, we're still staying in our galaxy, and that's like insane. True. Like, you're like looking at this galactic objects, which are still in the Milky Way.
They're so far away and they're so big, but they're still like in our backyard.
Exactly.
Basically. It's crazy how big space is. So like, you think with the whole masters in astrophysics, you'd wrap your head around this?
No.
But every time I'm like, oh my God.
And Ty is like,
so much stuff
and then
out there.
Ty is like talking about the clouds, I assume, that these clouds are like less than a light year, like wide across. I was looking at those little blob, which is, we call them core, which after those clouds have some initial condition, which is suitable for start to form, a baby core like starts to form within those clouds. And I just checked. I had like my like picture, and then my astronomical picture was kind of like boring because I just had like a little blob in the middle of my map. So I'm like, okay, let me just calculate how big is that just little like kind of like little blob is right in the center of my map. And then that was 10 to the 4 times of the distance between Earth to Sun.
Right.
So and
10,000.
10,000 bigger than the distance in Earth to Sun. And that was you talking about what magnitude of parsec?
The biggest scale is about 10 parsecs.
10 parsec. I'm talking about 0.1 parsec.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't quite get to 0.1. So you're looking at like, if I'm looking at the babies, you're looking at the teenagers.
Exactly.
Which is really cool. It's like how our group works.
And as they grow up, they just become smaller. They shrink in size. People. That's quite funny. But no, it's crazy because our scale that we were talking about is kind of like one of the smallest scale in astronomical field.
And it's still so big.
It is still huge. I think after like some, I don't know, number, that's why people like, choose parsecs or kiloparsec, because we just cannot write down all those zeros.
Yeah. You can't even like keep it in your head. It's so far away.
Yeah.
It's just like, how long would it take to drive there? Impossible. Impossibly long. Like millions of years. And it's like, this is like they're distances and sizes that are just so different from anything you think about in your daily life. It's like I have a science brain and my regular brain.
Yeah. I'm always like calling an astrotherapy session for myself. I'm always like mentioning that. And I'm like, every single time that I'm very overwhelmed, I'm thinking about my everyday problem, like on my day-to-day base, like life challenges, which is not at all like, small, or I do not want to like underestimate it. But and then I'm like thinking about like the space and stuff, and I'm like, well, it doesn't really sounds important what I'm dealing with, but it is important because that is a thing that I need to deal with tomorrow. Anyway, but and I think it's really kind of interesting to, I personally developed that connection with the nature as we're studying that, because it kind of tells something about us, and then just like dealing with those codes and numbers should mean something at the end of the day. But I don't want to like get too philosophical because I can just like talk like till like I don't know 2 days
like
about
we're
that.
So small and yet
and like I need to like make that food tonight because I need to be fed. But that's quite cool. So was it any kind of initial condition that is necessary for those stars in those clouds to form? It's like, do they need to be cold, or
they've got to have the exact right thing? So they have to start cold, because hot stuff likes to push each other away, right? It's all wiggling around because it has so much energy. It's so hot. So you need them to get cold, so they kind of settle down, they chill out, they can get close together. Because when they get close together, that's when you start getting denser and denser, right? So it's like there's in the air around us, there's dust. Not very much of it, but there's a little bit of dust. But when you look at like a corner, there's a dust bunny, right? And so that's what we want to find. We're trying to look out in space of like, oh, there's a little bit here and there, but we want to find the really crumpled up stuff. We're looking for the specific dust bunnies inside the whole cloud. And so it has to be cold for that to happen. It has to be, nice and chill. They can't get blown away. If there's winds out there. And so the wind is going to break up your dust bunny. And now it's gone.
Yeah, and then you talked about that they're very embedded in like kind of a very dusty region, or even like they're embedded like in a very dusty part. So how actually we can see them? Because I think a typical normal optical telescope cannot looking at those regions because the light's kind of the dust blocks the light to reach to us. So
one of the fun things about the history of this is initially, because we were using telescopes that work like our eyes, we're using optical telescopes, and we found these like dark regions, and we thought they might be holes in space because it was like, okay, stars, 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 no stars.
Actually, I'm gonna like put like a Bernard 68 image, right? Modules, like as we talked, so and you so can see what
people thought they were just like weird places where no stars exist, but that's just because the dust is in the way. We can't see through it. So instead, we have to go to other types of wavelengths. So when you get a heat lamp at McDonald's for your burger, that's kind of visible because you can see that it's on, but it's also in the infrared. And so the infrared, that's heat. So stars give off heat, so that's great. We can see the stars, but then we can only see them after they're stars, right? When they're still just kind of dusty balls and they haven't started actually burning anything yet, they're not really putting out very much infrared. So we have to go even farther past infrared, past microwave, into the radio, which is the same like type of thing that radios are named after. But they're really long wavelengths. They're really, really low energy because obviously these things, now that they're squishing down, that they are giving off a little bit of energy, but not very much, right? So it's the fact that they're very cold, right? So hot things shine, right? Hot metal glows. And people glow in the infrared, which is a lower energy. And so these blobs also glow, just at a really, really low energy. So it's super, super faint, and we have to use these special radio telescopes in order to see it. But the radio lets us see through all of the dust, and it basically makes it transparent, like a big dusty window, except you can just see straight through it. So we have to use the special telescopes to look at that, and they have to be really big, or you have to have a lot of telescopes. And I'm lucky. I get to deal with the one big telescope. Yeah. So I don't have to deal with all of the lots of little telescopes that adds way more math that I don't want to think about. But we are reaching the limit of single really big ones.
Yeah, no, that's very cool because like we always like looking for having bigger telescope and bigger telescope. So because to have like more surface area to just gather those kind of electromagnetic radiation, that it can be either light or heat.
So dim that we need it. Exactly. We need a big dish in order to catch it all.
So either we do that, or we just pass our limit. We just already built like a 100-meter like dish, like radio telescope, and then we just like, okay, that's too heavy. Then what we do, it's just like to build like interferometer, kind of like a telescope. So which is like a kind of an array of a lot of big dish come together and operate together to kind of make a one gigantic telescope.
I always hear it described as it's like a really big telescope with holes in it. And like, okay, so that makes sense to my people brain. But then people start talking about the math, and I'm gone.
No,
I don't understand.
I assure you.
How do you take all of these little telescopes and you put them back together to make a picture?
I think that is kind of like a magic of the math, because we know how kind of like two telescopes work together. At the most, like we try to like wrap our head around 3 telescope, and after it passes like 4 and 5 telescope, we're like, even I just joined a conference, and even like the people like building those telescopes, I'm like geometrically we cannot imagine what's happening, but the math works for 2, 3, 4, and then we can just increase that number to n. So and then serendipitously math and software is like, thank God the computer exists right now. So they just do all those like things for us.
You know what's really crazy? Like the fact that people used to do like physics and stuff by hand. absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sitting here, I've forgotten how to do integrals. I remember derivatives, but like, I don't have to do it. The computer does it, and it does it faster and better than I ever could. But like, no, isn't how it's always been.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's kind
There's
of like,
so much that we can only do because we have computers.
and then some like field in astronomy, they're just dedicated to like build those catalog, build those archival data. And I'm just like imagining how those catalog looked like.
Yep.
Just not really far time, like only in even 80 years ago.
Yeah.
Or
we just had giant books that people actually hand wrote out the numbers. You know, this is 0.0036 arc seconds. And now you download the data file that's 100,000 times bigger than the book.
Yeah, and sometimes you just like run a script and I'm like, I'll just come and check you like a day after to see all my calculation been done. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so speaking of those computer and stuff, so I just wanted to ask you what kind of jobs we can do that with an astronomy program, because I know that you congratulations, Ty.
Job in industry.
In industry. Yep. So if you want to like talk about it a little bit more, that like what makes you to like go and explore in industry for now? Maybe you want to talk about it a little bit at first, that just why you're taking some breaks from astronomy or academia, and then what are those options like really out there? Like if someone wants to stray astronomy, or being an astronomer, sorry. So what can they do? Or if they want to like just leave the academia in astronomy, what can be done with an astronomy degree? Like what are those options?
Mom said. Yeah, so I love science. I love astronomy. I am leaving Queen's because I've been here for too long. Yeah, I've been here for 6 years and I gotta do something else. And, on top of that, I've been doing school since I was, very, very small. And I think it would be nice to kind of take a break from that. I would love to come back. I would love to do a PhD one day. I'm not against any of that. I just want to take a break and try something else. Because I think that you can't, a PhD is a big commitment. It's a long decision. And I don't think I can make that kind of decision without trying something else. So that was sort of the reasoning of like, okay, I'm going to figure out my life, get a job, hang out for a bit, and then kind of reevaluate. Like, okay, do I still want to do a PhD? Where do I want to do it? Let's come back with a fresh mind. And basically, I'm sleeping on it. But I'm sleeping on it for like a year or two, as opposed to overnight. And so, when I made this decision, I was like, okay, well, after my master's, I'm going to start looking for a job. It's really interesting because as an astronomy graduate student, like on the one hand, that's very specialized, right? Like astronomy, not a lot of people do astronomy. But on the other hand, you have a degree in physics, in science, and those are very broadly applicable. Like most of what I do is coding. And so I also happen to really like coding. I enjoy programming in computer science and solving that type of problem. So I was interested in both the generic astro exit route is data science. So that's one of the things I was looking at, but I was also somewhat interested in more programming specific, more systems administrator type jobs. Actually, so what I ended up finding was, it was really, I would say maybe it's about 50% through connections and 50% through actual searching and luck, because the person who I'll be working for, he knew our supervisor, Sarah, in graduate school. So I had that kind of connection of, on the one hand, I learned about you and your company independently, but on the other hand, I have this really strong recommendation from essentially my boss for the last 3 years who says you should hire this person. So I'm super lucky that I was able to leverage that. But yeah, so I was looking at, a lot of, basically every website I went to, I would scroll down to the bottom and say if they have a careers tab. But, things like, programming, computer science assistants, software engineering type positions is mostly what I was looking for. It was a little bit tough because a lot of people, if you're a software engineer, sometimes they want an engineering degree. I'm like, okay, well, I have a Master of Science, but that's not an engineering degree.
Or there's also another program that you can be like, I don't know, like I knew a friend that had a degree in neuroscience or like in another like type of program, but they deal with a lot of coding. So they ended up having kind of like data analysis job, which I'm still trying to understand what is exactly, because there are a lot of industry hiring in data analysis. But then, and they can come from any major, not specifically, for example, if you did astronomy, like, as you said, astronomy is like very specialized, like field that like, what industry does astronomy, like that sell product and making money? And
so I was really trying to find something where I could keep that foot in science, because I like science and I want to keep doing it. And so, you know, my plan was, if I still didn't have anything, then I was going to start looking at, okay, well, can I work in finance, right? I can program things, I can write algorithms, I can do that type of analysis. Those are skills that I have, but it's not something I would be the happiest doing. And so I was really trying to focus more on, okay, well, are there like Canadian, like the forestry people, you know, they sometimes need data people, and I don't think I've found anything in specific, but you know, every industry wants to do metrics, right? Even if like I run a grocery store, well, how many of no-name brand eggs did I sell versus Loblaws brand eggs? Okay, well, I need to crunch all of this numbers. Like every single industry wants people like this. And so it's really just a matter of looking. But, you know, the job market is tough. And I'm super glad that I was able to, you know, kind of leverage a connection that I like unexpectedly had. I really didn't go into this thinking, oh, well, I know this person who knows this person. It was, your company sounds really cool, please hire me. Oh my God, you knew my supervisor? Okay, well, I'll make sure to highlight that in my cover letter. So it's really a big mix of factors, I think.
No, I think that's kind of very interesting what you mentioned, because I'm international student in Canada, so like people's like life have different conditions. So I'm like, I also want to have a break after like a couple, like maybe after like I did my PhD to like from academia, maybe I'll just go back and then, I don't know, have a dream of being faculty or being a postdoc, but I don't know yet. And I'm like, I've been like in a school forever, and
it's like you want to take a break from
like, and I don't know
summer breaks anymore. Summer breaks are just extra work time.
And I'm just like kind of like thinking that I might have some skill, but I've never actually put them in a use out of the school that I don't know what are those. So it's kind of like a very kind of challenge that I want to take, that, oh, what can I do out of the school? Because the school is tough, but at the same time, after all those times, I developed kind of like a sense of how to deal with those tough times. But I'm like, I don't know how to deal with
one of the really interesting
challenges
things I found
in industry
when
or
I
in
was
a
job
company.
searching is there are so many jobs that you would never think of. Like there was one place, I didn't apply to them because they weren't hiring yet, but I was keeping an eye on them, that programs a game that's like a universe simulator. It's not Universe Sandbox, it's a different one, I think it's Space Engine. But like they hire astronomy people to make their astronomy game accurate. And I'm like, this is so cool. I would never have thought like that's a viable thing that you could do with a degree in astronomy and astrophysics. Is program a game. Like that's so out there.
That's so out there.
Like, that's and then totally a thing that happens.
And then you actually like have a knowledge that they need that. So, and also like I know like one of my friend also, she has a degree in art, and then now she kind of like designed those virtual realities, like the artistic part of it. And then you say, okay, like right now, like fields and jobs are become very interdisciplinary. That like you can kind of play your part somehow in those. But I think it's kind of like important, but I'm not saying that it comes like immediately after you graduate, but like if you just think about a sense of authenticity, authenticity, like, oh, what kind of job do I want to like do? What kind of job that I like to do to like try to like do that in that industry.
I think maybe like arguably one of the most important things I've gotten out of grad school is just the time to explore. You know, like the job fairs that I've been to and finding out about new things, the conferences that I've gotten to go to and talk to people about, oh, so what is it you do? What's grad school like where you are? How much of your time do you spend doing research versus this and that? Like, I think those opportunities have really been like some of the most valuable stuff that I've actually gotten out. You know, the degree is obviously important, but I don't need the degree for what I'm going to be doing. it's the experience and the connections and like the having chances to talk to people.
And I'm like, degree is very kind of like very definitely a challenging thing to do, but like it's manageable to finish your degree.
Yeah.
But I think the only thing that I can highlight in a graduate school like time, that you just try to make those in-person connection or talk or whatever like question you have, you just have an opportunity to like maybe ask those questions that you think it's a dumb question, but over a lunch break rather than like maybe and you know, like those kind of like teeny tiny moments that happen in between like a lunch break and a conference, or if a prof or another speaker invited to your home university, just make those visits and try to like get to know people. And then, as you said, like you might just get to know some people that are totally irrelevant to your direct specialization, like, I don't know, field that you're doing, but somehow they have some point of view which is valuable. They connect you to some people.
Or even just like, you know, the fact that we get to watch a lot of talks, I found has been really interesting. Like, I am a far, far better public speaker than I used to be. You know, it's not like I thought I was particularly bad. It's just not something I did ever. You know, you do your presentations in front of the class in high school and that's it. But you know, I've been to a couple conferences. I've done like a public talk. I did my thesis defense, and like just having that practice and getting to see other people. Like, okay, what's good about this presentation? What could I improve about this presentation?
Exactly.
You know, like it's really nice to just kind of, it's a couple more years of school. You know, it's training. I think is a really important factor in like the way I think about graduate school. It's not just doing the courses to get the degree. It's really like, you know, growing and developing as a person in a whole bunch of different ways.
Yeah, that exactly. Because like I don't know, like those software that you're especially using or code that you're especially using for that specific project might change. Like, you know, it will be different. Like you're gonna be expert in that specific program or
but you're
software,
not gonna do that forever.
But maybe you're not gonna do that. So you have to develop that sense of, oh, if I want to like do this kind of job or this type of job, to develop like a kind of sense of learning that, oh, I want to like learn that new, but like just develop some soft skills like along with your graduate like journey. But the time that it comes to like that you have to sell yourself, you're
and
ready
because you're in
this.
graduate school, you're surrounded by people going through the exact same thing. You're like, Parisa, I'm kind of scared to go to this lunch with the speaker because I don't know this guy and I don't understand what he was talking about.
Yeah.
But we're together in it.
Yes.
So that really helps a lot. You know, you just have your cohort of people that like, none of us know what's going on in this class. None of us know what we're doing with our research.
That's true.
And so you can really, you know, share that experience, which I think is really important.
Yeah, no, I think that's all also I can tell with the graduate like journey, because I don't, even that I successfully published the first paper of mine, yes, which is it makes me quite happy, but I'm just like don't dare to call myself like an astronomer yet, even though if I have like a published paper in a
master's degree,
degree, like a valid paper in astronomical like journal. However, yeah, like that kind of thing, that if you have some companion that you share like those and learn, I'm like, yeah, like you get like your career will like show its path with its time. The last part of our talk, I just wanted to ask you about like about the gender minority in STEM program, or how did you find that experience? Have you ever needed to deal with anything particular, negative or positive? Because I'm sure that, you know, when it comes to physics, no one really think about a very diverse kind of like field. It's very kind of male dominated field of study. Even back in my own country, it's not like just like a white male, like it's always dominated by kind of like male more. But yeah, I just wanted to hear your experience. Do you have any maybe suggestion to make it better or not?
So it's been interesting, like as a non-binary person, and there's, you know, obviously not very many of us, like overall I would say my experience has been really, really good. Like there have been a couple of incidents and a couple of times where things have not gone so well, and in those times my friends have stood up for me and have pushed back and have said, that's not okay, that's not cool, that's not how we treat people. And I think that's just been really fantastic that, you know, the vast majority of people I meet are excellent. You know, I go, hi, I'm Ty. I use they, them pronouns, and that's fine. You know, like when people mess it up, they mess it up and they move on. And that's a fine thing to happen. But yeah, like no one is being malicious. No one is being rude on purpose. There have been issues, right? You know, unsurprisingly, there are issues regarding, the men versus women balance. And that's something that the gender minorities in physics group that we have at Queen's was sort of initially started to try and target. And that's coming from a number of fronts. And one of those is like just a sense of community, right? Like there are other people who face the same struggles, who have the same issues. Like I told you earlier, when I was in undergrad, I saw that there was a non-binary person in graduate school for physics at Queen's. And I was like, oh my God, that's like something I can do. And even though I knew it's something I could do, like there's no one saying I couldn't, but because there's so few people, you don't see yourself, right? Like role models are really important, even if you think they shouldn't be. You know, it's like, well, obviously, no one's stopping me.
No, that's really, really important because we talked about it. That like just by seeing someone in some position, which is like probably your next step or your next journey, just to relate with that person, you just can picture yourself in those positions, just for the sake of developing a feel of belonging there, that you can do it, and then not just like because you cannot do it because of like the science itself, just because you don't feel belong or heard enough. And I think it's kind of like very universal, and in some countries like the situation is better than the others. Of course, like for example, me, I'm an international student, so in Iran I had a lot of challenges just for being a woman. I needed to like go to observatory for my project, which I needed to do, and I was always thank someone or beg someone to like allow me to just be in the position that I just wanted to be, and that was frustrating every day. And I needed to rely on some other people, but there was not any other person like me that was doing that.
And it's so isolating. It makes you feel like maybe this isn't right.
Exactly.
But you know, once someone does it, it really does start to kind of open that chain of like, no, this is okay, we can do this, and we can talk about it.
Yeah, no, that's what it matters. Like we talked about it. Oh, if we can inspire some people, some other people, and my answer is always definitely yes, because either you just aim for it or not. There is some other people which are in the previous step of yours, like on your shoes. I don't know, 5 years ago, they're considering doing graduate school, and they just want those examples to be just to simply exist. And that's, I think, good enough. And I remember I heard that, like for example, right now back in my like hometown university, there girls are allowed to go to observatories, like to stay longer. I'm not like saying that the situation completely resolved, but it was not.
But it's better.
Exactly, it's better. And I'm not claiming any kind of I don't know, kind of authority that I was like the first person who did that, or I was like the person who tried so hard for this to happen. No, it's just little teeny tiny steps that everybody takes. Has a story which passes along to other people that they can relate.
And like, it's really nice to see kind of that happening. And like, there are things that I have seen get better. And I really appreciate that. And there are things that I've seen that haven't gotten so much better, and that's tough. And like, one of the things that helps when it's tough is like having other people who go through the same thing, right? Like no one is going to have the same experiences, the same problems, but like you can find people who have like different intersecting, like a Venn diagram where you've got some of it's over here and some of it's over here and some of it's over here. You know, like there are people who I'm in school with, in the same classes with, in doing the same type of research problems, even if it's not the exact same thing. Then there are people who, I can talk to about other struggles with everyday life and all those sorts of things. It's like you have different people help kind of prop you up in different ways. And so it's really nice to like find your different communities. Like I know you're involved with like the International Student Center, and like I have friends, and I used to be more involved with like a non-binary scientists group. And like there's all these different things. Like you can find the people It just, sometimes it takes a little while.
Yeah,
and like once you find them, it's great. It's great to be able to lean on those people and to have those friends, just to be like, hey, this sucks, or hey, look at this, isn't this cool? Yeah. And like having both sides, I think, is really important. It's not just, oh, we have to commiserate about all the horrible things that are going on. Sometimes it's like, Teresa, you submitted your paper. Let's celebrate.
Let's celebrate it.
Yeah.
That's all about it. Yeah. So just wanted to ask you if you wanted to say one last sentence to people who's like watching us right now, or like what do you say, or what do you say to, like, I don't know, ties 5 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, I think if I was talking to me several years ago, I would just be like, keep going. You can do it. You're gonna get through it. It sucks, but like, you're gonna get through it. You're gonna be fine, and you're gonna have so much more fun than you thought. Grad school is, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of grind, but at the same time, it's pretty awesome. Because you have kind of the structure of school, but also the freedom of being an adult. And I think that's a really, really fun combo that you get to have. So, yeah, science is a lot of fun. It's really cool. Yeah. It's a really great job to get to do research and find out things about the universe. This is a lot more than like 2 sentences.
No, that's absolutely needed to be said, because I'm always like saying that, yes, I'm struggling so much. Like, I just really cried over my project or over my assignment, but then at the end of the day, like, I'm like, okay, I can do this, and I belong here, and I can just like manage my teeny tiny life. It is very kind of like limited in terms of, I don't know, all those financial security or like the kind of activities that I can do, but that is just me. Yeah. And if something is for you, I would always like say to other people that, like, just find the thing which is for you. Yeah. And when it's there, no matter how challenging it is, or how tough it is to like be in that path, but that just you live your life kind of authentically. Yeah. So, like you'll find what you really want to be doing, and it takes a while. It's not instant, you know. And you might change, and that's really fine with it. Like, don't stick with something which you believe that it's for you, but now you realize that it's not. Also, I think being flexible, it's a skill. For sure, that's really important. But thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This was super fun. It was super fun, and well, good luck with your job. Thank you so much. All your next chapter. Yeah. Thank you. Bye. Bye.